History teaches collapse as failure. We imagine empires falling because they grew weak, corrupt, or decadent. But that explanation misses something more unsettling. Some empires didn't collapse when they lost. They collapsed when they won so completely that success itself became a trap. Victory removed pressure. Stability froze systems. Wealth hardened hierarchies. This is the story of empires that died not from defeat, but from triumph. Failure creates alarms. Decline forces reform. But success so does the opposite. It convinces leaders that the system works, that nothing fundamental needs to change. Over time, success stops being adaptive and becomes defensive. Institutions shift from solving problems to protecting themselves. When that happens, collapse doesn't arrive as a shock. It arrives quietly, invisibly, already baked into the structure. Consider the Roman Empire. Rome didn't fall because it was conquered. It fell after centuries of dominance. By the time Rome began to fracture, there were no meaningful external threats left to test it. The danger came from inside. Victory had removed urgency. Expansion had removed humility. Rome had become too successful to question itself. Roman conquest brought unimaginable wealth, but that wealth concentrated power in fewer hands. Inequality exploded. The army shifted from defending borders to choosing emperors. Bureaucracy ballooned to manage the empire's size, then strangled its flexibility. Rome didn't collapse in a single moment. It hardened, cracked, and eventually could no longer bend when pressure returned. The Mongol Empire presents a different paradox. It was the most efficient war machine in human history. In a single century, it conquered more territory than Rome did in 4. But its greatest strength became its undoing. When expansion ended, the empire lost the one thing holding it together, so constant motion. Peace brought trade, administration, and prosperity. Mongol elites settled. They adopted local cultures. Identity fractured. Succession disputes replaced external enemies. The empire had no institutional structure for stability, only conquest. Once there was no one left to fight, the Mongols turned inward. The empire didn't lose wars. It lost cohesion. The British Empire reached a different peak. At its height, it controlled global trade, finance, industry, and the seas themselves. Its success wasn't military alone, but ideological. Britain exported law, governance, and political philosophy, and that was the problem. Those ideas didn't stay loyal forever. Colonies learned British legal language and used it to demand independence. Success created global obligations that required endless resources to maintain. 2 world wars didn't destroy Britain outright. They exposed the cost of remaining dominant. The empire collapsed, not because it failed, but because maintaining success became more expensive than letting it go. The Ottoman Empire collapsed slowly, almost politely. For centuries it was stable, powerful, and administratively competent. That stability bred confidence. Confidence bred resistance to reform. When rivals modernized militaries and economies, the Ottomans preserved tradition. Not out of ignorance, but because success told them change wasn't urgent. Elite institutions became untouchable. The military resisted modernization. Bureaucracy protected itself. Reform threatened those who benefited most from stability. The empire didn't collapse from chaos. It collapsed from rigidity. By the time reform became unavoidable, it was already too late to catch up. The Ming Dynasty ruled the richest, most technologically advanced society on Earth. Its ships reached Africa before Europe crossed the Atlantic. Its manufacturing dominated global trade. And then it stopped, not because it couldn't expand, but because it believed it didn't need to. Economic self-sufficiency masked corruption and strain. Exploration was abandoned, innovation slowed, bureaucracy grew inward-facing and defensive, environmental pressures and fiscal stress accumulated quietly. Prosperity made warning signs easy to ignore. Collapse didn't arrive as invasion. It arrived as systemic exhaustion hidden beneath success. Across these empires, the pattern repeats. Victory removes urgency. Stability rewards conformity. Wealth entrenches elites. Scale outpaces governance. Reform becomes dangerous because it threatens legitimacy. Systems optimized for winning resist adaptation. And when reality finally shifts, those systems cannot respond fast enough. Every empire that collapses from success reaches a point where size stops being an advantage. Distance increases response time. Layers multiply decision paths. Authority diffuses. What once moved fast now hesitates. What once adapted now waits for approval. Scale turns coordination into friction, and friction turns strength into delay. By the time action is authorized, reality has already changed. Bureaucracy begins as a solution to growth. Over time, it becomes a survival organism. Rules stop serving outcomes and start serving continuity. Metrics replace judgment. Forms replace understanding. Administrators optimize for compliance, not reality. The system still functions, but it no longer perceives truth clearly. Collapse doesn't begin with chaos. It begins with paperwork outpacing reality. In successful empires, elites are rewarded for preservation, not correction. Reform threatens status. Adaptation risks power. The safest path becomes maintaining appearances. Problems are softened in reports, delayed in councils, reframed as temporary. Leaders are not blind. They are incentivized to see selectively. When incentives punish honesty, collapse becomes statistically inevitable. After long dominance, militaries change purpose. Defense becomes deterrence. Deterrence becomes symbolism. Budgets rise, effectiveness stagnates. Training prepares for old wars. Command structures reward loyalty over innovation. The military still looks powerful, but its feedback loop is broken. When real conflict returns, it exposes years of institutional drift hidden by peace. Economic success carries a ceiling. Growth slows, margins tighten. Systems built for expansion struggle with equilibrium. Debt replaces growth. Complexity replaces productivity. Leaders mistake motion for progress. The economy still functions, but it no longer renews itself. Prosperity becomes maintenance, and maintenance becomes exhaustion masked by scale. As empires grow, information multiplies faster than understanding. Leaders receive more data, but less clarity. Signals drown in noise. Decision-makers rely on summaries that filter out discomfort. Reality arrives pre-edited. When truth requires effort to reach, it rarely arrives on time. Collapse doesn't come from ignorance, but from delayed comprehension. Warnings rarely fail because they're false. They fail because they threaten identity. Admitting systemic risk implies past decisions were flawed. In successful empires, legitimacy is built on continuity. Change feels like betrayal. So warnings are reframed as pessimism. By the time danger becomes undeniable, response options have narrowed. Large systems create the illusion of mastery. Charts, forecasts, and models suggest predictability. Leaders mistake management for control, but complexity increases unpredictability. Small shocks cascade. Local failures propagate globally. Systems optimized for efficiency lack redundancy. When stress arrives, collapse spreads faster than intervention. From the outside, collapse appears abrupt. From the inside, it feels impossible until it's unavoidable. Every step toward failure was rational in isolation. Each delay felt reasonable. Each compromise felt temporary. Collapse isn't a decision. It's an accumulation. When the final break comes, it only looks sudden because denial was gradual. Success is psychologically intoxicating. It rewires decision-making. Leaders stop asking what could go wrong and start asking how to preserve what exists. Institutions shift from innovation to protection. Dissent feels unnecessary, even dangerous. In successful systems, warning signs don't look like threats. They look like inconveniences. Failure hurts, but it teaches. It forces change. Success lies. It tells societies that survival has been earned permanently. But history has no permanent states. Every system exists inside changing conditions. When success freezes adaptation, collapse becomes inevitable, not dramatic, but procedural. The most dangerous moment for any system is when it works well enough to silence doubt. When performance metrics are met but meaning erodes. When institutions persist but purpose fades. Comfort is not stability. Comfort is the absence of pressure, and pressure is how systems evolve. The ultimate test of an empire is not expansion or dominance. It's whether it can change while winning, whether it can disrupt itself without external force, whether it can treat success as a temporary condition, not a permanent verdict. Most cannot. History doesn't destroy empires at their weakest. It removes them when they stop listening, when success convinces them the rules no longer apply. Failure sounds alarms. Success silences them. And silence, more than war, famine, or revolt, is what ends civilizations.